Gordon Chang, renowned expert on Asia policy, author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. Good to see you.
Thanks, Ed.
If a month ago, even you as an expert, I had gone to you and said, you know, the leaders of North Korea and South Korea are going to meet, they're going to shake hands, they're going to hug, you might have said, you're crazy, Ed.
Right.
Now they've done it twice.
Yeah, this is amazing. You know, there have been 3 inter-Korean summits up to April 27th. These things take years to plan. You know, there are years between each other, and now we've had 2 in short succession. You know, 문재인은 is very pro-North Korean. He surrounded himself with people who actually want North Korea to take over the South. So I get a bit nervous when I see both Kim and Moon in the same place, because there you got a North Korean and a North Korean sympathizer. Much too cozy.
So what does President Trump do then to make sure that it's not too cozy and the U.S. gets a good deal here? Because if you bring it back to the domestic front here, a couple of days ago, you had Democrats like Nancy Pelosi saying the president sent this letter. It was all, you know,
folksy.
Yeah, and he was tickly with Kim Jong-un, all of this kind of overdone rhetoric. And they said he's blown the summit. And here we are. And actually, Kim Jong-un seems to be on bended knee. He desperately wants to meet with President Trump. And maybe President Trump played it just right.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's fascinating. Thursday in the morning, you know, President Trump withdraws from the summit. Almost immediately, like within an hour or so, you have the North Koreans issue a string of unusually conciliatory messages, even saying that they'd be willing to go for the Trump factor, quote unquote. So I think POTUS has the Kimster on the run. And this is an important thing. You know, we have now found the key to dealing with the North Koreans. And, you know,
what is that?
That is using basically the threat of force and also the sanctions to cut off the money to North Korea. And we have a president who is as good as his word, because it was just a couple of weeks ago he said, look, I'm willing to walk away if I don't.
And he did that with the letter.
And he did that with the letter. And, you know, you had at the time, you know, go back 2 weeks, people saying, oh, no, you know, this is going to be the end of the peace process. This is going to be, you know, thermonuclear war. Well, no, it wasn't. What happened is Kim caved immediately, and that which took me by surprise.
Last hour, we had a Democrat, Bill Richardson, on our air. You and I were watching it together, and you reacted sharply. I want to play that first, and we'll talk about it.
I wish it not happened June 12th, because we need to do a lot of preparation. We need to find ways to have our message by one person. I think that's Secretary Pompeo, an objective, a strategy. I think we're still not comfortable with the strategy we have on denuclearization.
He's a veteran diplomat, did a lot of good things as ambassador to the UN and whatnot. But as you and I were talking, he and others, both Democrat and Republicans, administration after administration, did the same thing over and over again. And yet this president is trying something different. It appears to be working.
Well, certainly. You know, Richardson talks about preparation. I can sort of understand that. But on the other hand, we've had little preparation, and we've had the North Koreans make important concessions. They released 3 Americans. And they made public commitments to denuclearizing, getting rid of all their weapons. That we heard that after the April 27th summit, when 문재인 said Kim was willing to give up all his nukes. Now, of course, Kim was being cynical, but he's created markers by which Trump can hold him to. The other thing that Richardson said in that interview, I think, is critical. He said, look, the United States, as it prepares, needs to weave in China and South Korea. Well, China has been a malign factor over the last 3 months. It's been busting sanctions openly. I think it's encouraging Kim to try to back away from the U.S. So the last thing in the world, Ed, we need to get the North Koreans and the Chinese away from each other. We need the Chinese off to the side.
The New York Times has a story today. The president basically tweeted that it was fake news. Don't believe it. But the gist of it, as I read it, is there's a split in the administration, they claim, where hardliners like John Bolton are saying there has to be denuclearization before you come to the table, where there are others like maybe Secretary Mattis at the Pentagon saying the June 12th or whatever date it is should be the beginning of the talks, and denuclearization could happen over months or even years. Where do you come down on that?
We should do it as quickly as possible. You know, in the past, we've had this sort of phased attempts to get the North Koreans to give up their weapons. Didn't work for a number of reasons. You know, right now, President Trump can just look over the table and say to Kim, you're giving them up, because if you don't, I'm going to start sanctioning you, North Korea. I'm going to start sanctioning China for money laundering for the North Koreans. I'm going to get the Russians out of the picture and really isolate Kim. And that's an important point. And so I would rather do it now while we got the power.
Sooner the better.
And we got Richardson saying, oh, look, you know, complete denuclearization is not possible. That is not your opening bargaining position, and that's not something you're striving for. And the president has said very clearly, look, these guys are giving up all their nukes. That's got to be our position. That's got to be not only what we say in public, it's what we really mean.
I'm supposed to be in Singapore on June 12th. Should I get a non-refundable ticket?
Get a non-refundable ticket, yes.
You think it's happening?
I think it's happening. Look, even if it doesn't happen on June 12th, it's going to happen soon. And the reason is that the North Koreans need too much from the United States right now, and we should strike while the iron's hot.
We've come a long way in a short time already. Not there yet, but it's interesting the progress that's been made. Gordon Chang, appreciate your insight.
Thanks,
Laura?
Ed.